Hey, Louis, it's me again.
Oh, hello, Sonny. What's up?
Were you sleeping, pal?
Me? Oh, I wasn't. Anyway, I'm always at your service.
Would you open up a room for Marty?
Naturally, Sonny.
Thanks, Louis. I'm not even gonna say it.
I will. You owe me one. Again.
Yeah.
I'd still like to take...
I wouldn't do... I slept like I used to sleep years ago. Like a miner or a soldier. Empty. Dead tired. Then I saw Tessa. My darling little daughter. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't recall her face. I reached out to her, but she just kept getting further and further away. Then I saw Molly. But she wasn't real. Just the ghost of a memory. I'm here, I cried. But all I heard was laughter. Not hers. Who's there? Suddenly, she appeared. Natasha. Just stood there laughing. But her eyes were cold. Then she said something. Painted red. Painted red. Painted red. That was just a dream, Sonny. Nothing more. I looked at Marty and I saw the same thing in his eyes as he probably saw in mine. It's time to hit the brakes, to turn back, go home and forget about all of this. Of course, I stepped on the gas instead. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anything good, but this...
Ooh, just like a horror movie.
I was thinking the same.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Let's hope so.
Of all the great wild ones.
Greetings, miss.
Is it really you?
Well, yes.
Yes, it really is you. The chicken police.
I'm afraid so.
Oh, of all that's furry and plumey, that's fantastic. Oh, my goodness.
Miss, we'd like to ask...
Please, don't be scared. I'm just really excited. You know, I've read every book about you and your adventures, and I even collected newspaper articles when I was a little girl.
Indeed.
You can't imagine what an honor it is to meet you in person.
We really...
Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. Take a deep breath, Miranda. Take a deep breath.
Are you okay, miss?
Yes, I am. I just needed some air. So, dear detectives, Santino and Martin, what can I do for you?
Well, miss, we have some questions, if you don't mind.
I'd love to answer all of your questions, detectives.
This picture...
Well, it must have been made by one of the patients, so it's understandable.
It's the handiwork of our director. He's not only a scientist, but he's a great painter, too.
I see.
Well, it's lovely to have a hobby, right?
That's right, Marty. Art heals, doesn't it?
Exactly, officers.
Art heals.
Even if you manage to escape, there's nothing but hills and forests for 100 miles.
Imagine how many poor lunatic ghosts must haunt those woods.
Ooh, Sonny, you're creeping me out.
Insane ghosts in the woods, Marty.
Sonny, it's not funny.
Insane.
This guy seems strangely familiar to me.
You don't say. You've been treated here too. That would explain a lot.
Oh, don't be stupid. I'm serious. Take a closer look.
No.
Well?
No, it can't be. Are you telling me it's him? M.B. Davis himself?
I'm sure of it, pal. It seems the gossip was true. The eternal king of jazz in a madhouse.
Oh, no, no, no. The poor devil.
It doesn't matter how big a star you once were. Ending up lonely and crazy in a rotting insane asylum in the middle of nowhere is like the universe restoring its balance.
That was very poetic of you, Marty. Almost deep. Careful you don't drown.
Cluck you.
That was... We should go to reception first. Let them know we're here. Say, miss, what can you tell us about this place?
Our institution was standing even before the Great Meat War, and during the war, it was transformed into a military hospital. Since then, we're relentlessly working on treating injured minds under the leadership of Dr. Quetzal, the famous specialist.
The place seems pretty empty. Do many people work here?
We have 32 residents and 7 nurses, including me. We also have a 3-person maintenance and cleaning staff, and, of course, the heart and soul of our institution, Dr. Quetzal himself.
I see. Now, this Dr. Quetzal, is he the director here?
Exactly. Director, scientist, researcher, patron, and doctor. And even a friend.
Quite a guy.
He certainly is.
So who is this Dr. Quetzal exactly?
He's a world-famous researcher of the mind, Mr. Featherland. He published countless books in the fields of psychology and psychotherapy.
Psycho what?
Unraveling the mind. It's the most crucial mission of the century, Mr. McChicken.
That's really good to know.
So this doctor's some celebrity, right? Does he usually meet other important persons?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, like Mr. Hobart Wessler, for example.
Ah, yes. That's something you should ask the doctor himself, but unfortunately, I don't think he has time right now.
He's swamped, is he?
Exactly, Mr. Featherland. He is very, very, very busy. All the time.
I thought so. Now, what can you say about this, miss? Have you seen anything like it?
Of course. Our residents wear these for identification. But how did you come by it? They only wear them inside the institution.
Huh, I see.
The wristband does belong to one of our residents. But I'm afraid I'm not allowed to tell you more due to regulations.
Oh, come on, Miranda. It's us, the Chicken Police.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Miranda, this case is a matter of life and death. Lives are in your hands.
All right. All right. I'll do it. Albert Wessler. The patient's name is Albert Thaddeus Wessler.
Figures. Just as we thought.
Thank you, Miranda. We'll never forget this.
Please, don't make me blush. And don't tell anyone you heard it from me.
Oh, we won't. I promise.
So when can we talk to Mr. Wessler?
I need to ask Dr. Quetzal. Please wait here.
Thank you.
We need to let them know we're here.
Dr. Quetzal will see you. He's waiting for you in his office. Up the stairs, all the way down the hall, until the last door.
What a surprise. It's enough to mention Wessler's name and all the doors are open.
I wouldn't want to get mixed up in this, but do you think Albert is in danger?
Danger? What do you mean?
We haven't heard from him since he disappeared, and we're really, really worried.
I see. We don't know yet, miss, but let's hope for the best.
Great wild ones protect him.
Where is he?
No idea, Marty.
The smell of all that's furry. I'll never get used to it.
Well, reptiles have a disgusting body odor, Marty, but they feel exactly the same about us.
Exactly. Great wild ones, you scared the hell out of me.
I already sensed your arrival from afar. You know, snakes have a different sense of smell, and birds used to be our prey once upon a time.
Well, yeah. Luckily, we're living in civilized times.
Lucky. Please take a seat. How can I help you, gentlemen?
Your office is rather Puritan. Simple, I mean.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, yes. I can't let my mind wander from my work. I only keep what's essential in my office.
I see. That makes sense. An isle of reason in a sea of insanity.
Insanity is such a strong word, and it's mostly an abstract idea. Where does insanity start, and how long is one not insane? Interesting questions. Am I normal, or are you? Maybe neither of us.
You see, that's something I think about a lot nowadays.
If you like, I can give you an appointment.
Oh, this is your chance, Sonny. Don't miss it. We're already here.
Marty, clock up. Why do you have bars on your windows?
Because it's a room like all the others, and I'm just an animal, too, like all our residents.
With the significant difference of you being a doctor and not a patient. Am I right?
It's not as big of a difference as you'd think. To be honest, gentlemen, your visit is anything but a surprise. I could even say I was expecting it.
What an introduction.
Please forgive me. I have the bad habit of immediately getting into the middle of things. How very rude of me. My name is Dr. Sessuous Quetzalcoatl, but most call me Dr. Quetzal to keep it simple.
The name is Santino Featherland, and this is my partner, Martin McChicken, from
the predatory division of the Clawville Police Department. Your fame is one step ahead of you.
We're used to it.
Certainly.
We have some questions about one of your patients, if you don't mind. We'd like to talk to him, if that's possible.
Please be specific, Detective.
Look, Doctor, we're too tired to play cat and mouse. Not that snake and chicken sounds any better.
Very funny, I must say. Just what I expected from you two detectives.
We know you know it's about Albert Wessler, Ibn Wessler's secret twin. Ever since we've said his name, all the doors have miraculously opened. That's what we call a bullseye.
Well, yes. Why should I deny it? We're talking about a rather illustrious patient here, who's also a very particular medical case.
Now, that's much more interesting. So, are you willing to talk about him?
Because Albert, regrettably, has disappeared, and you are police detectives, I have no reason not to talk to you. Of course, I'm at your service, but you must understand I can't disclose information about my patients.
Not even if it's a matter of life and death?
Everything's a matter of life and death in here, Detective. This is a hospital, even if it's primarily for the mind, not the body.
Still, I'd like to give the impossible a try.
Please, Detective, just do your job, and I'll do mine.
How long was Albert a resident of the institution?
For quite some time, his first symptoms surfaced in his teens. Depression, panic attacks, and schizophrenia.
Was he brought here immediately after the first signs that something wasn't right?
You know, the biggest problem with an opinion on insanity is that animals are ashamed of it. That's the reason our institution stands out here in the middle of nowhere.
Because animals would rather hide what they're afraid to face.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
As far as I know, the Wessler family wasn't exceptionally wealthy.
Indeed, they were rather poor, but we offer our services gratis.
Then how do you sustain yourselves?
By the grace of the treasury of King Hector III, of course.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
My family and the royal dynasty had always been on good terms, Mr. Santino.
What kind of a place is this exactly? I assume it wasn't built as an insane asylum.
It used to be a mansion. Construction started during the occupation in 622. Then it stood empty for almost a century, until finally it went to the crown of Cloville when Hector's great-grandfather took the throne. The rest is history.
How long have you been working here?
I've worked here for more than 30 years, but it's been in my family's possession for almost 150 years.
So if I count correctly, as soon as it went to the crown, it was seized by your family.
That's almost accurate, Mr. Featherland.
What a lovely inheritance. Tell me, Doctor, do you know Madame Zavas?
Just like everybody else, I've heard of her, but I never had the pleasure of meeting her in person. I'm sure she's an interesting case.
Oh, you can be sure about that. I'd gladly get you two together if I had the chance. A spare cell would suit her very much.
Is that so?
As it turns out, she likes small, narrow, secret places.
Oh, I see. What a coincidence.
A snake. Dr. Quetzal's a real mystery. But I can turn that to my advantage. I just need to focus on the strangest pieces of the puzzle. So when did Albert become a resident of your institute?
Albert and Hobart, or Ibn as you call him, arrived here almost exactly 4 years ago.
Could you describe that day more specifically?
It was not long after New Year's Eve, maybe the first week of the year, if I'm not mistaken. It was sleeting that day. Wind was banging incessantly on the windows. The power was going out for short periods of time.
What was your first impression of them?
I already knew the Wessler name. I knew who they were. Or at least I knew one of them, Hobart Wessler. He was famous. Gangster, moneylender, celebrity, lover.
And Albert?
He was new to me, an invisible gray ghost. The family had tried to keep his existence a secret.
Why?
Because they were ashamed of him, of course, Mr. Featherland. That's how it usually is.
What was your first impression of him?
He was silent, but observed everything that surrounded him. His eyes were constantly moving, never stopped for a second.
Was he afraid?
I wouldn't say so. It seemed to me that he wanted to move into our institution voluntarily. It looked as if he couldn't wait to be here, alone, locked up in silence and darkness.
Didn't you think of that as unusual?
Of course I did, but who am I to judge? It was rather special treatment.
What kind of special treatment did Albert get?
You know, if an institution like ours has to accept a Wessler as a guest, there's bound to be some favoritism.
And complete secrecy, I guess.
Yes, but that's the case for all our patients, Mr. Featherland.
Of course. So in what way did he receive more than the others?
Basically, we don't admit anyone into our institution without a complete and thorough prior assessment. In the case of Albert, we put that aside.
So you didn't even know if he had anything wrong with him?
Initially, no. He was more of a guest than a patient.
How did Albert relate to you?
Albert was immensely sophisticated and polite, so much so that his true emotions and thoughts could not be deciphered.
And that's why you thought of him as an exciting case.
That's right, Mr. Featherland. I see you're starting to get to know me in some way.
I'm just doing my job, Doctor.
You and me both.
Are you telling me Albert had multiple personalities?
We found out very quickly that there was no other reason for the cause of his seizures. He had a cold and calculating personality who sometimes, especially on stormy days, took the reins over their shared mind.
He had these seizures from the beginning.
Yes, Mr. Featherland, but they started to intensify after Albert left our institution for the first time.
He did what? Left the institution? More than once?
Oh, yes, Mr. Featherland. Albert left the institution on several occasions until the last time, when he failed to come back.
Quetzal's not only very observant, but he's addicted to details. I must focus on that if I want to get closer to the truth. Focus. Addicted to details. When and why did Albert leave the institution for the first time?
It was about 2 years ago. Mr. Hobart Wessler appeared and demanded we let his brother go free. Naturally, we obliged. We had no idea if we'd ever see him again.
But you did.
He returned the same day. Albert was ecstatic. He was unrestrained. I could almost say happy.
That was unusual for him?
I had never seen him like that before, Mr. Featherland. He just smiled and stared at the empty wall for hours.
Did he ever tell you what happened to him outside?
Of course he did. Albert and I had a good relationship. He was working on a painting for his brother.
Was it a painting of a lovely lady cat?
Oh, exactly. So you already knew about that.
Yes, Dr. Quetzal, I've seen it. So Albert left on many occasions to continue working on the painting.
Exactly, Mr. Featherland. Every time he came back, he was like a different person. But unfortunately, his seizures also multiplied and became more dangerous.
More dangerous?
Albert was hurting himself, and on one occasion he even tried to hurt me. It was unprecedented. It seemed his confined personality was taking over their shared mind entirely, piece by piece.
Do you think the painting caused it?
Not the painting, Mr. Featherland.
But its subject.
Exactly. He was obsessed, right until that fateful day when he returned to us for the last time.
What exactly happened that day, Doctor?
It wasn't Hobart who brought his brother back that day, but two of his gorillas. Not literally, I mean. And Albert was in a terrible, terrible state.
What happened to him?
I don't like to talk about that, Mr. Featherland.
It could be vital to the case, Dr. Quetzal. Don't back down.
Oh, you're right. There's no use turning back now. So, Albert's tongue was torn out, or cut off, I don't know exactly, and he was blinded in one eye, or rather, one of his eyes was missing entirely.
So you're saying Albert was brought back horribly mutilated?
Yes. And they didn't give any explanation as to what had happened. They simply told me it was some kind of accident.
Dr. Quetzal is cold and professional, but he's also very confused. Maybe it's cruel, but I must exploit his vulnerability if I want to learn everything about Albert. Focus, confused. You didn't believe Albert had an accident, is that right?
Of course not. I'm not naive. I knew immediately that Albert had been severely battered, and I was sure it had been his brother, Hobart.
Well, we don't know that, Dr. Quetzal.
Would you defend a monster?
Take it easy, Doc. One of the most critical elements of my job is not to make assumptions.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Featherland. I'm sorry I got carried away.
It's all right. Happens to everyone. Pull yourself together, Doctor. What was Albert's condition after the incident?
Mind your tone, Detective.
Sorry, Doc, but I can see you're disturbed by these memories.
How could I not be? I'm not a monster. We're talking about a mutilated animal here.
So, what was he like after the incident?
Even more silent than ever. No surprise, I suppose. He was not only silent in words, but also in his soul and spirit.
What do you mean by that?
He never painted anything again, and his seizures completely stopped.
What happened then? How did Albert disappear?
A few weeks later, Hobart came to visit Albert one more time. Albert had been in terrible condition by then. We even had to transfer him to another cell, a more safe one.
What did Hobart do during the visit?
He didn't do anything. He just sat and watched his brother, who was in an almost vegetative state by then.
Couldn't you manage to draw anything out of him? You or Hobart?
Nothing. For a while, he was trying to signal something. Perhaps he was too afraid. And most likely his fingers had been broken too, so he couldn't even write.
Do you think Hobart could have killed Albert?
It's horrible to say it, but I'm sure of it.
How did he disappear in the end? Did someone come for him?
That's what's most eerie about it all, Mr. Featherland. He simply disappeared. His door, which only I had a key for, was open.
Did anyone see anything?
No one. We interrogated the staff, even the patients. He simply vanished off the face of the wilderness. We don't know what happened to him.
Unfortunately, I have a hunch. Thank you, Doctor. You've been a great help.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could be of help. But please, I now must attend to my work.
We understand, Doctor. Thank you.